Good evening, Your Excellencies. Thank you so much, Ntsako, for this opportunity, and thank you to the entire GBR. Interesting enough, Kou, you and I, we come from the same village, so I thought that was quite interesting. So that, Ntsako, will be a discussion for another day. It's not Bochum. So I, unlike all my other colleagues that were speaking, who chances are much more qualified than me, I'm a layman. I speak on finances as a layperson. I'm an engineer by profession, and because of my experience with money, I then became a money coach. And I'm going to speak about money like an engineer. I'm going to speak about money from a data point of view. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do this very quickly in the next 10 minutes. And as we go through it, I encourage you to think about your personal circumstances. If you have your smartphone or something where you can get onto your banking app quickly to just go through some of the things as we are discussing them, please do that. Get a notebook if you want. And obviously, I will share this presentation with you as well. So I wrote this book, Money 101. And the main reason why I wrote it is because I was really struggling with finances. I had been a top student. Okay, fine, I failed a little bit at WITS, but that's not for discussion today. But I had been a top student, was very good at maths, thought I understood what money was about. But for some reason, as an engineer who was earning an above average salary and above average bonuses at a platinum mining firm, I was just not making it. So the first thing that I then got introduced to is that to handle your money, you need a personal finance system. And any good personal finance system has three components. One, your personal finance system must make money. It's very difficult to talk about investing and spending when you're not even making any money. So the first component of your personal finance system is you must make money. Whether it's a job or a business, as Chloe just said now, or you are selling, or you are, you're selling your services, you're selling goods, whatever it is, there must be some way that you are generating income in your life. Then the second part of your system is that part of that money that you make, you have to keep some of it. And this is where I think a bulk of our discussion is today. That some of that money you will spend and some of that money you will invest. Then lastly, you must grow your money. So you grow your money in two ways. Either you make more money or you spend less of the money that you have made. Because if you're spending less money, you will keep more. But if you want to continue spending at the level where you are spending now, you then need to make more money. So today, I won't really go into details about the different systems that you can use in your personal finances. But my favorite one is this one by Jim Rohn. He says you give 10% of your money. You employ 10% to active money. This is money that you yourself multiply. This is money that you yourself put to work. And then the third one is passive money. Your shares, your bonds, you're buying into other businesses, etc. You're putting savings into the bank. Other people may say that it doesn't earn anything, but that 1% is a little something. Then lastly, you live on 70%. So a money system is independent of the income that you make. It's percentage based. If you're earning 100 rand, 10% is 10%. If you increase to 2,000 rands, 10% is still 10%. So when you're dealing with a money system, try to deal with percentages and not with absolute figures. Because most of us, we say we don't have money to save because we are looking at the figures. So for today's section, though, I want us to focus more here. So at any given point, when you are thinking about your money, how you deploy your money, you are deploying it in three areas. Business of yesterday, this is where you are dealing with your debt. This is the stuff you consumed yesterday that you are still paying for today. This is the clothes you bought on sale 2 years ago. You have now given them to your grandmother or you have given them to your cousin. You don't have them anymore. You don't know where they are, but you are still paying that account. You are still paying that credit card. This is the yogurt you bought at that store that has a food account. You ate it, you forgot that you ate it, but you are still paying for it. You are not paying for the yogurt alone, but you are paying for the interest on the money that you used to buy that yogurt. So this is where we are dealing with debt. And I think the earlier speakers already spoke about it. Some of the debt is related to our houses. Some of it is related to our cars. And when you're dealing with money that is allocated towards business of yesterday, you are not just dealing with the amount you paid for whatever it is that you purchased. You are also dealing with the cost of that money, because that money was not given to you for free. Then the second thing, this is where we're dealing with consumption now. Today's consumption. It's the business of today. It's the Wi-Fi that I'm on right now as I'm speaking to you. It's the electricity. It's the shelter that I have today, because if I didn't have this bond, maybe I would be having a rental that I'm paying. So it's all those things that are ensuring that today I have my needs met. This is the business of today. Then the third category is the business of tomorrow. Is the stuff that you are allocating money towards today that is going to be a blessing for you tomorrow. The stuff that you are allocating money to today that is going to yield fruits tomorrow. Today you may look like you are coming out of pocket, but tomorrow you'll be reaping the rewards of the business of tomorrow. So quickly then, and this is an exercise that you don't have to do now, that you can do even in your later on after this discussion. Just go through your banking app if you're using a banking app, or go and get a printout of your statement. And on your statement, look at every single item on your statement and ask yourself, is this business of yesterday? Is this business of today? Or is this business of tomorrow? And when you look at that, obviously, your insurances, your investments, your savings, maybe investment property, etc. All those things is business of tomorrow. It's the stuff that will yield fruits tomorrow. You allocate that to a 3. Then business of today is all the things that are making today possible, whether it's your rental, it's your electricity, it's your Wi-Fi, it's you taking your children to school, could be business of tomorrow. Then business of yesterday, so you allocate business of today to 2. Then business of yesterday, everything that is debt related, including the cost of your overdraft, the cost of you having access to your credit card, even though you are not paying for that credit card. Chances are monthly, there's an access fee to that credit card. All of that stuff is business of yesterday. And then just look from a percentage point of view. How much of your income goes to business of yesterday? How much of your income goes to business of today? And how much of your income goes to business of tomorrow? That quick audit will show you whether you are a consumer or you are an investor. You don't have to guess it. You don't have to take it through the entire year. Look at just a snapshot of 1 month, and it will tell you how you need to change your behavior so that your behavior can speak to what you know about money. Because all of us who are gathered here, there are principles about money that we know from the Word of God. There are principles about money that we know from our education, from our engagements with personal coaches, from our engagements with financial planners, from books that we have read, from programs that we have watched, from our engagements with loved ones, friends, and colleagues. There are principles that we know. So my hope in speaking to you today is not so much that I remind you of the principles, but to ask you, take an audit of your behavior. And now that you have taken an audit of your behavior, ask yourself, how do I change my behavior to align with the principles that I know? So in closing then, Your Excellencies, I just want to read a quick quote. Well, it's a long quote, to be honest. It's not a quick quote. From The Richest Man in Babylon. Some of you may have read it. It's a book by George S. Clayson. And I've have it here on the screen. I'm going to read it with you. So Akkad had been asked by the king to come and teach people about money. And in that first class, he got there and he said, is there anyone here who doesn't have money? Everyone raised their hands and they said they don't have money. And after he noticed that every single one of his students did not have money, this is how he then addressed them. He said, and this is King James English, guys. So if I'm not reading it right, forgive me. He says, Now I will tell thee an unusual truth about men and the sons of men. And women, include yourselves here, and about women and the daughters of women. It is this, that what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. Confuse not the necessary expenses with thy desires. Each of you, together with your good families, have more desires than your earnings can gratify. Therefore, are thy earnings spent to gratify these desires insofar as they will go? Still, thou retainest many ungratified desires. All men are burdened with more desires than they can gratify. Because of my wealth, remember Akkad was a very rich man, thinkest thou I may gratify every desire? It is a false idea. There are limits to my time. There are limits to my strength. There are limits to the distance I may travel. There are limits to what I may eat. There are limits to the zest with which I may enjoy. I say to you that just as weeds grow in a field wherever the farmer leaves space for their roots, even so freely do desires grow in men whenever there is a possibility of their being gratified. Thy desires are a multitude, and those thou mayest gratify are but few. So, Your Excellencies, it's very important for you and I to understand that we will have many desires. And those of us who will be honest with ourselves when we conduct this audit, we will realize that maybe I'm living in a house that is bigger than my budget, or I'm driving a house that is bigger than my budget, or I'm on a medical aid plan that is beyond what I can afford. And only in conducting that personal audit will you be able to have a sober discussion with yourself that will then say, how do I cut back on my consumption so that I can increase my savings and my investing? Thank you very much, Your Excellencies.